Welcome to the Kortex Media Podcast, Marketing Accelerator, your compass for navigating the dynamic world of marketing and business growth. I'm Corson Schmidt, founder of Kortex Media. Our mission is to equip marketing agencies with the custom growth solutions they need to unlock massive revenue increases and scale their business. Today's guest is Rick Jaffe, founder and CEO of EPS Communications, a result-driven marketing agency with over 3 decades of experience helping brands navigate change and achieve measurable impact. For 44 years, with 35 years leading his own marketing firm, Rick has blended strategic thinking, creative storytelling, and the latest tools to build award-winning campaigns. Under his leadership, EPS has evolved from electronic publishing to a full-service agency, all while keeping a people-first focus that stood the test of time. It's great to have you on, Rick.
Thank you. Very nice to see you all.
Yes, thanks for joining me. So I kind of touched on your background within that introduction, but I want you to give us a background on how you got started within marketing around 44 years ago. What did that look like, and what was the inspiration behind EPS and building such a great marketing agency that is still dominating today?
Well, thank you. I don't know if dominate is the right word, but we've survived a number of world events, and yes, we're still here. My story is a simple one. I started my career as an educator. I graduated with a BS in health and physical education with a minor in biology. I ended up teaching chemistry and biology at a high school in Massachusetts, and coaching to sport. When the year was out, a parent of 3 children that I either taught or coached approached me and said, I'm starting a company that's a UK-based company that's moving to the United States, and it's a direct marketing firm, and I think you would be great. And he offered me a salary that was far greater than it was as an educator. We had just had our first child, and I said, fine, let's take the next steps. That led me to moving for a few weeks to the UK and learning what the actual business was. And it was a direct response travel company that represented the senior market set. It was called Saga Holidays, and Saga, S-A-G-A, stood for Social Amenities for the Golden Ages. And back in those days, and we're talking 44 years ago, I was one of 5 folks that helped start the company. And, we all held a number of, or wore a number of different hats. But mine was primarily in marketing and sales.
Okay.
Now, how do you attract people to raise their hand and say, I'd be interested in this? So back in those days, it was through advertising. And we worked with an advertising agency in Boston to help us put together ads that were placed in publications that we felt seniors would be reading. We then bought lists of seniors and sent out direct mail pieces. We took ad space in certain publications like the AARP, where we had an ad plus a postcard that you could fill out and mail in. And what they would receive would be a catalog. And that's what fascinated me the most was, how do you produce a catalog? Again, back in those days, it was tremendously complicated. Fast forward to today. And, it's a simple fast forward, so that your listeners could get a grasp of it. If I had to take all the variables that we needed 44 years ago to produce that catalog, it would cost about $1 million to have a company within 4 walls that could produce that catalog with the equipment needed. That same company today, to produce that catalog, not the printing costs and mailing, but to do everything else, would cost about $20,000 to have the same amount of people doing those jobs. Now let me go back. What's lithography? Lithography was typesetting. color separating. It was taking the photographs, putting them on a big drum scanner, scanning them, separating into the colors, that the 4 colors that you could print. You would get proofs. You would decide whether the copy was right and the type that you chose was correct. You combined it with the imagery, and you produced back in those days, a Kodak proof that you would review and sign off on. Now that could go 2 and 3 rounds before you could, in fact, approve it, before the film could get sent to the printer for them to put on their drums. So, as I understood and produced the first catalog for Saga Holidays, and the phones, once people received them, they would call an 800 number and they would book their destination. And everything was done manually back in those days. I stayed with that firm for about 4 years, got recruited to a competitive firm based in New York to do something very similar. When I left Saga Holidays, from the 5 people that started it, there were about 106 employees 4 years later. Went to this new firm, helped them get started, produced catalogs for them at that particular time. Apple came out with the first Macintosh and a software called, called PageMaker. Well, again, the sophistication of technology started to grow, and I helped that firm sell their company, and I was fortunate enough to get a small slice of the profits, and that led me to coming back to Boston and starting my own firm, EPS. And the first clients that, of course, I went after were people in the direct response travel business. And that was, pitching them how I could streamline the cost of producing a catalog, not only in time, but cost efficiencies that they didn't have. I also was one of the leading companies to get into doing digital photography. So we started to get into footwear, apparel, sporting goods, and the company just grew exponentially over the next 15, 20 years. Within that time frame, I made the decision, instead of servicing ad agencies and designers, I would bring on my own designers and writers and copy editors and produce and go directly to the companies like Reebok, Ride Right, Echo Shoes, Franklin Sports, Susan Bristol, a number of others. So they were coming to our studio. They'd bring their apparel with them or their footwear with them. We would shoot. We'd work with their writers, or if they didn't have a writer, they could work with one of ours. They would talk to us about the types of layouts they wanted, and we'd produce their collateral materials. I then started to think about becoming our own strategic marketing firm, meaning not only we were selling creative services, but let's talk to the client about strategy. And that was, for me, I think the biggest breakthrough for us in becoming a very solid marketing communications / ad agency. What we started to do is I brought in marketing folks to go into clients and listen to what their needs were. Who was their audience? How could we best reach them? And what we started to do is realize that one of the most important sales techniques or opportunities with clients was creating really good content. And when you create good content, then creates the opportunity to have a longer lasting client for that particular business that's pitching. Let's take, for instance, a pharmaceutical company. Pharma companies who was in a specific industry like diabetes, for instance. Diabetes is a very complicated illness, and we represented a very large diabetes supply company. And when I met with their CEO, he said, Rick, it's very easy for us to get a client. The hardest thing is keeping them.
Yeah.
So I said, well, why don't you educate your clients? And that led us to creating a magazine on their behalf, and that became one of the largest distributed health publications utilizing their client list. So it was basically an internal magazine that we eventually turned into an external, meaning I then became the owner of it and publisher of it, selling advertising into it. So we had our own magazine division of the company as well, and that led us into doing books as book publishing. So we started a division doing book design and doing the output for them, so that they could go directly to the printer
Yeah.
at a very fast speed, in order to get to market. The most important thing about marketing, from my vantage point, is getting to market with the right message. So sitting back, listening to what the client's needs are, making sure they sign off on what your strategy is, getting them involved with approving the creative that goes forward, but getting it done quickly with a high level of degree, so that when the client or the particular buyer sees it, they go, wow, this is really good. Let me call or let me go online, which again,
So,
over 35 years of owning this firm, when I started, you know, um, the digital environment didn't even exist. Cell phones just came out.
yeah.
Um, it's what has transpired over the years for me is not only an education of technology and the evolution of technology, but more importantly, how do you use technology um, to reach the end consumer? Again, back in the day, you had TV, you had radio, you had newspaper, you had magazines, and you had outdoor, which were billboards. Well, today you still have those, but in addition, you have the digital environment. You have Google, you have Bing, as platforms. You have Facebook, Instagram, um, X. There's so many different places to now advertise and get promotion in order for your buyers or your clients to get on board.
Yeah.
So it's a different group of people now that work for you that you didn't have 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So
And you kind of spoke on how the digital age is changing things a little bit. Um, with the digital marketing being one of the go-to marketing efforts at the moment, and it always continues to evolve. Every day we're seeing something new, whether it be AI, whether it be within digital marketing as well. What are some of those new industry trends that you're seeing that are truly going to benefit the marketing industry as a whole?
I will tell you the most important is this: your phone. You know, People do not go anywhere without their phone. People scroll all day long. You've got to get your message so that it resonates, um, and gets somebody to make a decision based on the phone. Remember, as a marketer, you want people to take action. There's always a call to action, um, and that's the key. Um, you know, when you talk about evolution of the industry itself, who would believe that you and I would be doing an interview? We've never shaken hands. You're in a different time zone. This is just a different world that we're living in this particular time. Is it going to evolve even greater? You mentioned AI. Absolutely. Things are going to evolve. But the thing that isn't going to change is smart thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And, you need to understand what your client wants and needs. You need to interpret that within your firm, and then you need to get that message out to the end user.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do that, I don't care what technology you're using, you'll fail. The other thing that's important is, recurrence of business. I mentioned that in the diabetes world. You can mention it in every other industry, whether it be the apparel industry, the footwear industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the higher education industry. You need people, talking to one another once they've had the experience. Referring a friend is still a big part of business development. Um, but, again, you got to have a good product for people to talk about in order for them to buy again. And that's how people, do extremely well. And that's how EPS has done well over the years.
Sure.
We have been referred. Um, we I don't think we've ever really done cold calling, because people have heard about the work we've done. You work with a client, they've moved to another business, they refer you, and that's how the business evolves and grows.
For sure. If you can keep clients coming back to you, keep clients happy, then you know you have a good product. Your customers know you have a good product.
Right.
And they're going to keep spreading that word. The best form of marketing is word of mouth because they get true value from the person, the end user that actually had that product, used your product, or had your services within their company and used your services. So that is the biggest part of marketing that anyone can have, especially with you guys having 35 years of experience with EPS running for now 35 years. That is huge to bring that client retention with you and keep bringing companies back, because if you can bring people back, keep customers happy, word's going to spread faster. You're going to keep bringing in that income. Now, when we talk about outreach methods, customer acquisition, what are some of the most effective strategies that you guys are using now at EPS that are boosting your customer acquisition results at the moment?
For us, new business development is a bit different. Again, it's all referral. We don't reach out. The clients we represent, I will tell you, for us, from a media perspective, in gaining traction for them and new clients for them, we're using Google and Bing. Those are the two biggest platforms that we're using for advertising.
Okay.
And we're constantly testing. Um, we've tried social media advertising, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. The biggest bang for your buck right now is Google and Bing, depending upon who the age of your audience. My clientele is the age category is a 50 plus category of people who are buyers. My clients that I represent, could be because I understand them because I'm in that age category and I've grown up and seen how people are interacting, and I feel comfortable in that area. Um, I have very young, not very young, but people who understand, who work with me, whom understand how to use um, those platforms, those media platforms well. Um, we do, as I said, not only testing with different ads, A/B testing constantly, but we're evaluating and we always with our clients, what we do is report to them our findings. We discuss what we feel is occurring based on the results, and discuss it and make alterations to it. So it's that back and forth. Um, we are very, very transparent in the way we do our business for our clients. But as I say, for EPS's growth, um, it's really just because we've been around for as long as we've been around in this New England area, that people know us. It's funny. I always use this line. We're a cobbler without shoes. Our website, if you went to it today, is ancient, because again, you don't choose yourself as the priority. But when we hit our 35th anniversary last month, I said, I think it's time for us to update the site. And as we started having our internal thought process on what the site was going to be, I led the thought process as maybe it's a historical perspective on the company, and showing the different technologies that we used then versus where we are today. Here are the clients we did 35 years ago and how we did it versus they. And then, one of my creative directors said to me, Rick, this isn't an ode to you. The goal with a website is, having a good call to action and once you get people to the site, wanting them to, call and or request, a meeting. So, I have this podcast with you, and there are moments that I keep thinking to myself, I can't, in the time frame we have or the time frame somebody wants to listen to this, nobody will care. Nobody cares what I did 35 years ago, what I did 2 weeks ago. It's what I can do for you tomorrow to better make your firm successful. And that's what I have to keep in mind, and that's what most websites need to be. It needs to have content that people can look at and say, you know what, I want to be part of that. I want to buy from them. And that's the most important message that I can give forward to anybody.
For sure. I totally agree with you there. It's a lot of people, don't want to say we're selfish. Some people are selfish, but we look in the benefit of ourselves. That's the way I'm going to put it. Especially with people running businesses, right? If you can show them results they can get now, they're going to be way more attractable to those results rather than results 35 years ago that you guys did get. It's truly impressive, but when people are growing, when businesses want to grow, they want to reach more customers, they want to have more client acquisition, they want to sign more clients and grow their company. They're worried about right now, what can we do right now to take it to that next level. And I hear multiple companies like you and EPS that kind of run just on a referral base. And I understand you guys have long years of clientele, great work, but you guys could scale much quicker if you did advertise and you did do just a little bit of marketing. So I just wanted to ask you this question: why don't you do the little bit?
I'll tell you what changed things. COVID changed things.
Mm-hmm.
Before COVID, we had a very large office, lots of people, lots of verticals of business. We had verticals from, health sciences to world travel, higher education, and we had people designated in those areas. When COVID hit, a number of those industries and their ad budgets or marketing budgets, you and I both know when people are cutting their budgets, the first to go is marketing and sales, and which is a foolish thing. Without marketing, you can't sell.
Yeah.
So you then do, I did a personal evaluation and said, okay, there are certain clients that it's time to move on, and get away from, because it was a heavy overhead to carry those types of customers. And now that we're not together on a daily basis, even though there's Zoom and Google Meet, it's still different. Back in those days when you were face to face, you could have those meetings. You dressed differently, you thought differently, you had meals, you went out, you socialized. During COVID, you didn't do any of those things. So I had a change of mindset, and I called the staff down and said, okay, here are the industries that we're going to focus on. Here's the team we're going to have as full-time staff. And then I went out and had a pool of freelancers that I could call upon when I needed them. And that's why I am the way I am. I know that I want a certain clientele. I want it to be very results driven. And I want us to have, and I want us to do award-winning work. I'd rather have 5 clients that are doing great work, that are being tremendously successful for themselves, rather than have 50 clients where I have, from a management perspective, I can't see them, touch them every day. I'm not ever going to have an office again. And as the leader, I feel more comfortable in a small setting at this particular time in my life.
No, I love it. I love how you kind of broke it down through the years, and you found out specifically niche down exactly who you want to work with, the results you can truly get them, and putting the work into getting the results. Because at the end of the day, got to keep your customers happy. They pay your bills, and then those bills pay your employees. So you need to make sure you keep your clients happy. And I love that after the years of experience working with multiple different ventures, multiple different industries, you've niched down to one specific that resonates with your team the best, with EPS the best, and you guys can help the most. Now,
Yes.
You did say that you brought down the size of the company since COVID and kind of focused more on specific niche, focused more on specific people inside of your company. How are you guys leveraging AI at the moment to help automate things, make things just a little bit more efficient within your operational daily uses every day?
I'll tell you two specific things. We're using AI for scheduling. It's much easier, for our calendars, especially when we're creating a catalog or a brochure. We use that to our advantage. The second, it was a perfect example. We needed to create a privacy policy for one of our clients yesterday, and the research we did was using AI. I didn't have to call a law firm. It just made a lot more sense to go in that particular direction. I'm not an AI guy as of yet. I'm not it's something that I know I have to grasp and engage with far more. My team is doing that, and I'm listening to them. So, do I believe AI is going to take over the world? That'll be a shame if that happens, and it's going to take over a lot of jobs. I do believe people who are graduating or going into school and graduating, the degrees they're getting or the education that they're getting needs to be around and in that particular venue in order for them to be successful. You can't shy away from technology, but I'm also, at an age where there's only a certain limit of technology that I can embrace.
Oh, that's amazing. Looking ahead with EPS, what are some of the goals that you still want to hit with EPS, and what is that main vision that you still have for EPS and taking it to that
The
destination?
main vision is success for my company, for other companies. Our success is based on their success. If they're not successful, we're not doing our job. So if we can't make them successful based on the work that we're performing for them, then we shouldn't be doing the work.
For
And,
sure.
so as long as we can demonstrate success for the companies we represent and they enjoy, working with us, we'll be successful and continue to be successful. People constantly say to me, you're still working, you're thinking about retirement. There's no reason for that. I still believe in what I do and how I do it and the team of people that I do it with. I have people that have worked for me for 25 years plus, and I'm fortunate. And, I have the newer people that I work with, or the younger folks, embrace the seniority of the people that have been with me, and they're learning and we're learning from them. And that's the key to success of running a business.
For sure. Now, with driving success for other companies, what are some of the challenges? I know you guys have niched down to a specific industry, specific companies you guys are working with. What are some of the challenges in getting them success right now?
Well, you know, in the world travel industry, there are variables that you can't count on. There are certain, whether there becomes a war, whether it becomes an industry, I mean, an industry shutdown like the airlines, the oil prices go up. There are certain variables you can't control in that particular industry. And that's the toughest part I have when I'm working with those clients. If everything is running smoothly, um, what you need to do for them is getting new names every day and getting them on board. That's the biggest key to the growth of that particular industry that we represent, is getting them new engaged names. So putting out ads that make sense, getting them to fill out forms that they can then, that we with them can decide, here are destinations they're interested in, here's where they've been, here's how we should market to those, to the ones they're interested in. But again, let's just, if you make a choice and all of a sudden there's a volcano in that particular area, you've got to be smart enough to know how to switch them and/or put everything on hold and wait for things to chill out and/or move them to a new destination. So that's an industry that's extremely, I shouldn't say extremely volatile, but it's volatile and it's not in anybody's control.
Hmm.
Uh, Health
Definitely.
and wellness industry, which is my passion and background from school, is one that we've represented folks in epilepsy, diabetes, depression. Um, the success I find in working with those firms is longer living. When a client can tell me that their clients and the studies that they're proving with the um, pharmaceuticals that they're creating, to me that's very rewarding. Um, I would have never thought that particular way of solving somebody's psychological issues would work, and then they show with the work we're doing for them, and then the results that we're getting back from them. That is tremendously rewarding.
Hmm.
So
Definitely. No, you have a great point there with the travel industry. You never know. You never know what's going to happen with it. Just like COVID, it shut down, and that would have put a stunt to you guys. You guys would have had to pivot and try
well, the
something new.
key, and I'll tell you one quick story. During when COVID happened, one of our clients, who I helped start, 27 years ago, they're a phenomenal company. The CEO is a phenomenal man. He and I are close, and he said to me, I don't want to stop marketing. How can you and I help one another? And we agreed on, a continuing plan. Um, we both sacrificed financially in order to keep everything moving. And thank goodness, when COVID, was subsiding, their business exponentially just grew. It was the most rewarding issue that came out of a terrible situation.
Sure, for sure. Looking ahead for EPS, are there any new initiatives that you guys are launching soon or looking to get into?
No, I don't think so. Not from my standpoint.
Yeah.
Again, it's we love doing video. We have a great video team. We like being creative, and we'll just continue doing more of the same.
Amazing.
More of the
Amazing.
same, and doing it well.
For sure. For young entrepreneurs wanting to get started today within marketing, whether you start their own business or just learn more about marketing, what is some of the information that you'd like to pass down to the younger generation for people just starting out within the industry?
Most important thing: learn how to listen, and never be the smartest guy in the room. Okay,
Be a sponge, soak it up.
your clients are the smartest people. Okay, it's their product, not yours. If you want to represent them well, Let them tell you what they need, and then go back and use your initiatives and your team and your smarts to come back with an outline for them to review. But never be the smartest guy in that particular room with your team. Yeah, and learn how to listen and speak when it's your turn.
For sure.
That's
For
the
sure.
most of it. And I'll tell you right now, you want to develop, you want to be a good first time meeting, learn how to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand properly. That is the key to creating a relationship.
Sure.
And a lot of
That's
young
what,
people don't understand that. A lot of young people think that, that there's an easy way. There is no easy way to be successful.
you got to put the work in. You got to be a sponge, soak up as much information as you can.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest struggles these days is exactly what you said. Looking someone in the eye, shaking their hand, because a lot of people aren't in those one-on-one interactions. They don't have the confidence to do it, which is a huge struggle in this day and age for younger entrepreneurs coming in. So I love that advice. It's great advice. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the audience? Anything else you'd like to add in about EPS before we finish things off?
No, I just first thank you for choosing to have a conversation with me. Again, I can give you some history and perspective of marketing, but again, it doesn't matter because it was, and what we have to deal with is what is. And I think doing this type of dialogue in today's world is smart. You're doing a very smart thing. You're getting information and you're getting it out to people. Hopefully those people will come back to you for more information. So, you're doing the right thing as well as I hope we are. At the end of the day, you want everybody to be successful. There's no reason, for not. So congratulations to you and to me. So let's just keep at it.
Let's keep going. Thank you, Rick, for taking the time. You've amazing experience. You have amazing knowledge. You've had probably more time in marketing than anyone that will ever be on this podcast. So I appreciate you sharing some of that experience, sharing some of that knowledge with the audience, and I hope some people can really pick up some Easter eggs and learn from this conversation.
All right. Well, thank you very much.